Hey friends, so welcome to DBC Inc. Live. We are so excited to join you again for a Thursday night free PD and free book session. So be sure as you're joining us tonight, tell us who you are and what you do, and maybe tell us just something exciting about this 4-day week that a lot of us are experiencing. Hopefully something exciting is happening in your world, and maybe you're on summer break, so it's exciting every single day, and I love that for you because teachers deserve summer break every year, but especially after this past year. So we have a special guest on the show with us tonight, Amy Illingworth. She is the author of The Coach Adventure, and we are so excited to have you on the show, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me, Tara. Excited to be here.
Yes, thanks for joining us. We've been wanting this to work out for a long time, but she lives on the West Coast, so getting off of work and trying to get into the live, but she made it happen tonight. We're super excited. So as you're joining in, tell us who you are, where you're from. Remember, every single comment over in the comment section will enter you to win a free book. So you definitely want to grab a hold of this book. It's really fun. It's I'll let Amy explain it a little bit more. But before we dive into that, Amy, I would love for you to introduce yourself for anyone who doesn't already know you. Tell them a little bit about what you do. And yeah, let's just start there.
Sure. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Amy Illingworth, and I am currently an assistant superintendent of educational services in the beautiful town of Encinitas, which is in northern San Diego County. I'm hoping my local resident, Dave Burgess, might pop in here at some point in time. He lives right down the road. I have been a teacher and a literacy coach and a vice principal and a principal all throughout my career, and culminating with this dream job that I have right now where I get to coach teachers and coach principals. And so I just absolutely love what I do, talking about teaching and learning. And I have to tell you, today I got to talk teaching and learning. I didn't talk COVID once today. I talked teaching and learning at work today. It was so exciting.
So exciting. Oh, Tish knows exactly where you're from.
That's right. Yes. Encinitas is beautiful, right, Tish?
Yeah. I think she went to school out there, so she is very familiar with the area for sure.
Awesome. There's Dave. Hi, Dave. Good to see you.
And I love, Amy, that you got to talk coaching, teaching and learning today. And finally, I feel like we're starting to move away from everything being COVID-19 and all things related to it. Super exciting. I'm loving all these great things that you have to share, friends. Be sure and tell us something exciting that happened during your week. It could be anything. Amy, we'll start with you. Besides talking, teaching, and learning today, what's something exciting that happened in your week this week?
I was just telling you, Tara, I just spent the last long weekend in Las Vegas with my two nephews who are 7 and 8 years old, and they have just hit a sweet point where they love reading. And me being an avid reader, it was so fun when I could get two ADHD boys who willingly wanted to sit down and have reading time with me. And all three of us had our own books, and we were all reading together. And that was such a beautiful moment to have this week.
Oh. I love that so much. For kids to love reading in a day and age where media is just the thing that gets their attention, it's just so exciting. It makes my heart swell as well. So something exciting that happened for me, my husband and I got kayaks. And so we've lived off the lake for a long time. You can see the lake, Clinton Lake, right from our balcony of our house on the back deck. And I never thought I would enjoy the lake as much as I did in kayaks. It was so much fun. We launched where the boat launches, so there's a little cove, and then we rode all the way to the beach area, which is quite a way away. It's a big lake, and then swam, ate snacks, hung out at the beach area, swim area, and then rode back to the boat launch in the evening. It was just so fun. It's like exercise mixed with fun, which is my style. So super exciting. I see some friendly faces joining in. Dave is here. Tish is here. Oh, TikTok. Follow me. Oh, I think you followed me, Sean, today, and I followed you back. I like TikTok too. I've had a lot of fun with learning how to make videos and just kind of get your message across in 1 quick minute. It's been something fun that I also think would transfer right into the classroom as far as helping students to get the message across really quick. It's like building your own little commercial. And so I've really, oh, you did. How fun. Thanks, Emily. Yeah, so much fun. Awesome. Well, it's good to have all of you in the house tonight. I want Amy to share a little bit about her book, The Coach Adventure. I was going to share a little bit about it, but let's hear from the author. I mean, we have the author here. You don't need me. So Amy, tell us a little bit about why you wrote this book and what you're hoping the readers gain from the book. And then we'll dive into the content that you're going to be sharing tonight.
Sure. So the Coach Adventure is really taken from all my years of being an instructional coach. And when I transitioned from being an instructional coach to an administrator, I wanted to make sure I kept that coaching lens on because I didn't want to just become the evaluator and the person people were scared of. I didn't like that us versus them that happens so much when somebody becomes an administrator. And my heart is all about teaching and learning and coaching. And so I really wanted to just take examples from my practice, whether I was a coach or an administrator, and share with people what that coaching could look like. And I've worked in systems where I was the only coach and I had to create my job and invent it from scratch. And I've worked in systems where I was the coach of all the other coaches and we had a really systemic way to coach people across a system. And of course, that's the dream state, but you don't always get that. So I wanted to give practical tools for people who may be the only person in an island of a big or small system where they are being a coach by themselves. And so I've shared a lot of really practical examples of things that work for me. And because I've worked from K all the way up through 12th grade, really up through college, I have elementary examples as well as secondary examples and what that looks like. And then the really fun part, thanks to Dave and Shelley really pushing me, we've turned it into a choose your own adventure style book where not only do you get the tips that I'm giving throughout the book, but you can follow two coaches' journeys through their own coaching adventure. And you can choose at the end of each chapter to follow one person's journey or another. And you can read the book out of order if you follow the adventure along. So you can really take the book and go chapter 1 through wherever the end is, or you can start at the beginning and follow the adventure and really learn along with one of the coaches through their adventure. Then you can go back and read the other adventure in that order.
It's really fun. We have no other books like this, and it is super cool. So I think when I first read it, I followed one adventure and then back and then followed the adventure because I've never done that in a professional development book before, and I thought it was super fun. I will say a confession. Way back when I read Choose Your Own Adventures as a little middle schooler, I would never stick with the adventure that I chose. Once it started getting interest, like negative, I'm like flipping it back.
Me too. I chose wrong. I gotta go back.
I was not the person that stuck with the plan, but with your book, I did. I was a good girl. I've grown up and matured a little bit since then, but super fun. You got to check this book out if you're in instructional coaching role at all, or you're even thinking about it, or you're a teacher. Honestly, it doesn't really matter your role in education because if you think about it, we're all coaches in some form or fashion, and we definitely use the structure of communicating, at least if we do it well, and in a coaching style, because that's how we stretch our learners or those that are within our realm of influence to go to that next level. So I think no matter who you are, you can read this book and really gain some great strategies and some great techniques for just being a good mentor and coach for others. So do check it out. The link is above and below this video, wherever you're watching, if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. And then Dave has also dropped the link over in the comments so you can check it out there. But tonight, Amy is going to be talking to us a little bit about a specific topic that she is very passionate about. And so I'm going to turn it over to her. And Amy, we are excited to learn from you tonight.
Thank you, Tara. So this is something that's not in the book because my own personal equity journey has really ramped up in the last few years, long before the whole nation really got into the need to talk about equity. But really, I wanted to talk about, Dave, that's a good point. What I really wanted to talk about is how we coach or how we think about our own practices through an equity lens. And just like Tara said, while you might not be in a formal coaching position, we can all be coaches of our peers, of each other, of our colleagues in our PLCs or our grade level teams, our departments. There's a lot of ways you can be a coach. You can be a coach or a mentor to a new teacher if you're a master teacher. There are just so many ways to be a coach. So I just like to use that word, but I don't want that word to scare you off if you're not in a formal coaching position. But I really just wanted to talk to us about how we could put an equity lens on our work. So if I was a coach, I would be asking these questions when I was coaching a teacher or a grade level team. But for today, I'd love for you to just think about your own practices or who you might be coaching and considering these questions. So I have to tell you, the most important question that I am asking of myself and asking of the curriculum that I'm creating for my district and supporting is, whose voices are missing? Because so often in our curriculum and in what we teach, we are teaching somebody's voice, we're teaching a perspective, but we're not necessarily looking at the voices that aren't being covered in our curriculum. And if we purchase a curriculum, or if we're forced to use a specific curriculum in our district, an adopted curriculum has a lens, but it may not have the lens of everyone who is involved in any particular event. And I'm going to go into the history topic. Dave's a big history lover, and I'm just going to give you an example from my current role right now. In 4th grade in California, we study the gold rush. And in a typical history book, the gold rush acts as if California was an empty land that nobody had ever seen before. And then these wonderful, smart white men crossed across the country and discovered gold. And they were the only people here, and they were the only people who benefited from the system, and nobody else was impacted by the system. We discovered gold, and it was great. And, it was hard living, but we got the gold. As you all know, that is not an accurate representation of history. There are a number of voices missing in that typical paragraph or page that you see about the gold rush in a typical history book. So what our teams have done is really look at whose voices are missing, who was present in the land before white settlers came and began to look for gold. Who else came to the land besides white settlers? We have women who are there. We have our indigenous native cultures who are already on our land. We have Asian Americans, Chinese immigrants who were here, who were forced to work the land. So there are a lot of voices that are missing in a typical textbook style curriculum. And I think the opposite end of that question is, who is telling the story? Whose voice is the voice that we are highlighting to tell the story? Because that can also help you identify whose voices are missing. And I think as teachers, as coaches, one of the things that we want to really get stronger at our practice is finding where we can find those primary source resources created by people with different identities from different perspectives. So not only am I looking to make sure that the stories of other voices are being told, but I want to hear directly from their voices. So I don't want to have somebody who was an indigenous person in California during the gold rush. I don't want to read about them. I'd rather read their perspective of what it was like during the gold rush time. So I'm really looking for ways to find those additional voices and find them from the original people whose voices are missing in what we are doing. So that's just one example. And the way we're calling it in my district, we're calling it a curriculum audit. We're really wanting to audit our curriculum as well as our policies and practices that are really missing voices. And I say that because teachers aren't intentionally skipping out on voices. We're teaching the curriculum the way we've taught it before. We're using standards the way we've taught it. We're using resources that have been very familiar to us. But as we all know, as our nation is coming to this global racial reckoning, there is a lot of voices that have been left out of the history books, left out of the stories that we've told. And so I'm really trying to make it a point in my own practice to coach into teams to ask them whose voices are missing. And sometimes it's really hard to find a good resource that's age appropriate for whatever kids you're teaching, that's going to bring in those other voices, which is why I like to think about the resources we can use with kids can be texts, they can be videos, they can be pictures. You can do a lot with kids with just a singular picture that shows different people present in the picture. Really making sure that we are finding those resources. So I'm getting so distracted by your comments. I love the comments you're saying, Sean. That's so great.
No, that's fantastic. And I think it's just it's such a powerful question to ask in any setting, right? I mean, you're talking about building curriculum, which is amazing. And that's exactly what we need to do is audit our curriculum. And I love calling it an audit too, because it's not like, it's just like anything else we would audit. We know that we could do this better. That's why companies get audited, because there's practices out there that are better than what they used to do. Hospitals are doing it all the time. All these different fields are doing audits and checking and is this really the best for those that we serve? And if it's not, then how do we fix it? What do we change about it? And I love this question to Amy for any setting. Anytime we're having a meeting as a coach or as a teacher, we're leading a discussion with students, whose voice is missing? Once everybody shares their response, And wouldn't that be just such a powerful question just to ask? Whose voice is missing here? And they say, like, my friend of this race is missing. Like, we don't get to hear his, or, and anybody, whoever they can name, that their voice is missing. So are we getting the full story? And I think it's really important to teach students, and really as adults, we need to learn this, that there's so much more to the story. And when we base these big decisions off just a handful of voices, then we're really missing out on a big chunk of it. And that's what I feel like you're saying, with curriculum, with anything. I just think that's such a powerful question to be able to ask at the end of any kind of meeting, like, whose voice is missing here? And then how do we not only, like, we don't share the perspective we think they should have, but we go and find that voice and bring it in so we can actually hear from them and see it, like, this is the perspective we're missing and we want to hear from you.
And I think you can certainly look at it beyond curriculum. I'm taking that coaching lens of curriculum, but really in any system, I look at now, we have this amazing film guild in my district where we're in elementary school where kids can join a club to make films, and they're award-winning films. And now I've asked my film teachers to make sure that the students who are in the film guild are representative of our student population, because one type of student typically joins this film guild. So how are we recruiting others? Where are we making the same videos with the same perspectives all the time? Or are we bringing in other voices there? So I think about when I was in a high school in the ASB, a lot of the kids all look the exact same. So how are we making sure that we have different children represented in different clubs, different activities, and that we're constantly asking whose voice is missing in any student body organization? When we're getting feedback from people, when we're bringing parent groups together, are we always pulling from the same demographics? Are we making sure that we have the LGBTQIA perspective represented, that we have all of the different identities of all the people we serve represented? And Encinitas, if you know, Encinitas is a very homogeneous group. We have a lot of people who are the same. So I also have a very strong desire to make sure that our kids know what's out there in the world, because the community they live in looks very similar to them for the most part. All the more reason I want to bring in other voices to make sure they know that not everybody is like them in the whole world. And to create global citizens, we have to look beyond the walls of our community sometimes.
Yes, and it requires intentionality, right? And it requires a little bit of work, but we have access to so many people through virtual means. There's so many ways we can bring in the voices that are missing before we kind of come to some kind of conclusion, or we create a curriculum, or we make a big decision. I mean, wouldn't it be beautiful if the whole entire world would adopt this concept, right? And it's just one simple question, and then not just asking the question, but like once we know who's missing, then going out and acting and finding those voices and letting them participate. I love it. I love it so much. So I know did you have more to share? I don't want to interrupt you.
No, yeah, I brought one book with me. I have a million books I could share because I'm such a reader, but it's so funny because I lead the equity work in our district, and because my colleagues know this is a personal passion of mine. Yesterday, one of my new colleagues came in and gave me a gift, and the gift was this book, and I'm just going to share it with you all because this is such a learning tool. It's called Intersection Allies, We Make Room for All, and there's a number of authors listed there. But not only is this something that can be read as a picture book, but there's an opening that is a letter to teachers and to parents to coach you through how to use this as an educational tool. And then after the short picture book, there's actually about 10 pages of book notes that teach you all of the different pieces of intersectionality that were referenced in the picture book. Some of the stuff in the picture book is going to go over little kids' heads. You could do this book with high schoolers, and some of it might go over their heads unless you're ready to have conversations about all the different things that are represented. I learned something new when I was reading this because they referred to a Korean American family, that the child who was born in Korea and moved to America with his family, as a 1.5 generation, meaning he was born in Korea, but then he came to America, so he's the 1.5 generation in America. So there's so much to learn in this area, and this is just my latest recommendation because I just got my hands on it today, and it shows so many different voices present in one single beautiful picture book about We Make Room for People. And it has a simple message for little kids, and you can dive deeper with the notes for older kids or grown-ups who still need to learn a lot of this work as well.
Love that. I feel like the best picture books are the ones that are written for all ages. Like, it doesn't matter who you read it to, they can take a part of it and just hold on to it. And it's a message that hits home. And so thank you for sharing that book. I definitely will be adding, I've already wrote it down. I'll be adding it to my Amazon list for sure. So Amy, it has just been a true joy to have you on the show. The show always goes so fast. Every time I'm like, whoa, it's almost over. But if anyone has any questions over in the comment section, you guys have been blowing it up over there. I'm loving Emily. I love Emily, first of all, period. And then I'm just really loving your comments over here saying how much you really appreciate what Amy has to say tonight. And I know that you live that message so beautifully. Her story is just so powerful too. And thank you so much, Sean and Tisha, for joining in. It has been so lovely to hear all of these comments. And remember, a lot of times in these sessions, we learn something that is simple, but profound. And just adding it in our practice is going to make us better. And I feel like that's what comes out of these sessions a lot of times. And I love that because it's little bite-sized PD that we can take and apply in our lives, no matter where you are. Think of this question that Amy has provided for us tonight. Whose voices are missing? And then how do we go find them and put them in before we try to make any kind of next moves? So think about that as you are going about your life. It really can work in any area of life, but especially as you're planning those lessons for next year and moving into what we can do to make sure that everyone feels included and valued and appreciated, because that's what must happen in the school system. For sure. It needs to happen in the world, but definitely as educators, we have a responsibility to make sure that happens. So Amy, you have just been a gem tonight. I'm loving it. I loved learning from you. The comments are blowing off the page over here. I don't even know if I got them all up there, but I'm super excited to have you. And, I know a lot of people are going to want to connect with you, especially after they dive into the Select Your Own Adventure book, the coaching adventure book. So how can they connect with you?
So I will tell you that, but I'm going to answer Dave's question first because he may see this picture right behind me and he probably doesn't remember their name, but my favorite band to see live, Dave, is New Kids on the Block. So anybody from the 80s knows I still love them. I've seen them like 15 times. I'm going to Fenway Park next month to see them. And that is Joey McIntyre and Jonathan Knight, two of the New Kids on the Block that I'm standing next to right there.
That's awesome. I love that.
So if you follow me, you'll get to know my love of New Kids. But on Twitter, I'm Amy L. Illingworth. It's a lot of I's and L's in a row, but Amy L. Illingworth. And Tara and Dave retweet me that you'll see me on there. That's the easiest place to find me. And my hashtag with the book is Coach ADV for Adventure. And I'd love to see you share anything that you take away from the book, any questions you have. My website is also listed in the book. It's Reflections on Leadership and Learning. And I have an entire page dedicated resources to the book. So I would love to connect with you and hear what you think about the book and your coaching adventures.
Awesome. We have some more. Amy is a NKOTB fan as well.
Woohoo!
Love it. Who was your favorite New Kids on the Block? I mean, hurry up, get it in the comments. We got to know.
That's right. I'm a Joey girl, but I have loved Donnie Wahlberg as well,
Donnie was my dude. I had the shirt. And I was so proud of it. I think he was kind of the bad boy back then. And I just
he was. Mm-hmm.
Anyways, thank you so much for joining, Amy. We just really appreciate you having you on the show and teaching us just something that we can really take and apply in all areas of our life and be better humans and really just support everybody around us and make everyone feel included and a part of what we are doing. And again, y'all check out her website. Dave is dropping the links over in the comments. And check out this book. We will be choosing a winner. We will wait until tomorrow. There's so many people that like to watch these on the playbacks, and they always load up the comments. So if you're watching this on the playbacks because you're putting babies to bed or something, no worries. Get your comments over in the comment section. You'll be entered to win too. And this book will go out this weekend. So thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next week. Same place, same time, but a different guest. And thank you again, Amy, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.